Ideal conditions. Ill enough to have to cancel the one session I had booked this week, with pouring rain and American football outside making plenty of noise. Yes, after I hurt my eyes crying a fortnight ago, I developed an eye infection. It's gross and rather painful, but I suppose I do videos with a black eye as well. The only difference is that I get beaten up on the inside. Anyway, I do strive to be aware of my own internalized misogyny. I seek to check myself because I know my childhood did its worst trying to stick me with a rather dim view of women. My mother and her mother were both homemakers. I eventually learned they had fascinating interests and aspirations, but they'd married and had children anyway. That's what society expects of anyone assumed to have a uterus, then and now. I saw that women don't have lives, they have families. To be a girl was to be doomed. Womanhood equaled defeat. No wonder, then, that I was still a toddler when I informed my mother that I was actually a boy. Why on earth would I have willingly submitted to becoming what she was? She had a terribly unhappy life, and among her many regrets was not being a better role model for me. We felt guilt at both ends of this equation, as I had clearly failed to be the daughter she wanted. However, I never considered her culpable in somehow making me trans, and her efforts to survive abusive relationships and raise children in a world that hated her were no less heroic for my sorry inability to look up to her and appreciate her struggle. What time, grief, and reflection allow me to better grasp today is that not only my inner transness, but also the external pressures of patriarchy led me to reject being female as an untenable situation. Understanding this reminds me not to judge femmes as we're supposed to quit labeling them bad feminists, bad lesbians, bad trans women, or as people who are doing it wrong and somehow embarrassing the rest of us. The queer community must stop playing these sort of respectability politics, especially stop using notions of assimilation against trans people. So, more recently, I've reached a newer conception of my own transgender identity as a combination of innate attributes and raw survival. We need to break down the nature-nurture dichotomy, which, like so many dichotomies, proves to be a false one. I see each person's queerness as a blend, as unique as they are, of biological, environmental, and cultural influences that relate to one another within that individual in dynamic and surprising rather than fixed and prescribed ways. Ironically, I do agree with TERFs on one point, that gender is a social construct. I suspect that divorced from all social and cultural context, gender would be a meaningless concept, that gender is a human invention rather than some quantifiable biological reality. What this implies, though, is that each and every one of us has the right to freely construct our gender in absolutely any way we see fit. It means you have the right to choose to be as butch as a Tom of Finland illustration, as femme as Caitlyn Jenner, or anything at all in between. including building off sideways in other directions as yet not formally mapped. The identities and outward expressions of those identities that we forge for ourselves are ours. They are real, they are valid, and no one has the right to tell us that we are incorrect or insufficient in the genders we construct.